Were any of those death threats, like, I guess, did you take them seriously, or having these experiences from the first time around with the national anthem and all that? I mean, I guess,
Oh,
were
you
you
have to take them
scared?
serious. Oh, you have to take them serious. And at the time, my kids were teenagers. My son was getting ready to
Right.
go to college, so he's getting ready to move out of the house, and I don't know. He's not going to be with me. That one was particularly scary because
Yeah.
when people meet him, I don't know who he's going to meet, and he's going to be miles away, and I can't protect him in the same way. And every parent knows that's like your biggest fear. With my daughter, it was almost scary in a different sense, is you're with me all the time. So I'm worried. And so there were a lot of times like, and as my ex and I were kind of figuring out the paperwork and separate, I took my daughter to work with me a lot of times because work was the safest place. And you have to take all these things serious. And I, with a little bit of tactical background and friends who are in law enforcement and military people, I was very protective. And I've always been protective, and I've always kind of bunkered down a little bit at home. And so that part just kind of got heightened. And I was worried that I was going to impact my kids and make it even scarier for them. So I tried to keep normalcy, but be extra protective.
And they knew what was going on, and like your ex-wife, and like, I mean, I guess
Oh,
you
yeah.
had to involve them.
Well, I mean, that morning, the answering machine started, we had a landline, and, people were calling and leaving messages on the answering machine. So they're waking up to hearing these things.
Wow.
And some of the most disgusting, bigoted, prejudice, I mean, the language, the messages, the things that you get called, the words that get used that, frankly, probably never should have been invented in history, but certainly should have died a long time ago, that don't have a place in our world, really, are coming across. Like, I got to the point where I just unplugged the answering machine because I didn't want my kids to hear. They know these things exist in the world, but it's different when they're being threatened or said, right? And you just kind of go, okay, we have to streamline how much we're taking in. We have to streamline what kind of access to social media and how much you engage, and don't fight on my behalf. I don't need you to do that. Like, don't engage. I'll engage the people I feel I need to. I took a few days off social media too. Like, you kind of, you just kind of, you cope the best you can. There's no playbook or rule book on how you deal with these things. But that's what I learned the first time with the national anthem. There were a lot of people who felt we were un-American when she never intended for that to be disrespectful or negative. It was intended to
Right.
be a positive thing, and she struggled and she tried to make a joke, and it wasn't received well. So it's one of those scenarios where, again, you just kind of have to step up, face up, and say, okay, it's like facing the bully. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get a choice because you can't run forever, and everything that you run from owns you.
Well, it's a lot to go through. You lose your job, which I know is the least of your concerns. You get it back. You make a statement, which you stand by. You read this statement,
Well, the
which
statement came first. Let's make sure
the
we put that in
statement
the
came
right order. So
first.
so you get a job, you get your dream, you're thrilled. You're
On top of
finally
the
getting to a
world.
place financially where you're getting out of debt. You got a child going to college, so you have a big responsibility. Suddenly a statement's made that you don't agree with, that's opposite of everything you've ever posted and said. You have to be vocal and take a stance to be consistent and have integrity. When it's the hardest possible thing because it's a person you love and have loved your whole life. Then you make the statement, the show gets canceled. Oh, it's almost like, oh, wait, by the way, I just lost my job, right? Like, that
Right.
part almost doesn't hit you because everything else is so much more important, right? And then all of a sudden the
Right.
reality sets in. It's like, oh man, what do I do next? I just almost cussed pretty thoroughly right there.
You
Uh,
you're you're entitled to.
and then you go, whoa, my whole world is falling apart. What am I going to do to take care of my family? What am I going to do to take care of paying for college? And then on top of that, all of a sudden the death threats start. And now the spin game starts from people who want to manipulate it, who most of them didn't have anything to do with the situation and weren't connected. Now you're in the middle of what is a public, just storm, right? It's like standing, I don't want to say eye of the hurricane because they say it's calmer in the eye, right? Like, but you're in the hurricane and you're trying to figure out, you don't fully know which way's up. And so what you have to do, and what I tell anybody is, what you have to do in that moment is own who you are, think very hard about the decisions you make, and make decisive decisions. Because what you can't do is panic and act out. And then what I started doing was, okay, I'm a coach. I need to invest in my team. Okay, I'm a dad. I got to make sure my kids are okay. Okay, we have to make plans for how we go forward. And then you just kind of live, and you live the moment. And what you try to do is show people as much kindness and love as you can, and understand that some people are going to hate you. Some people are going to agree with you. And the truth is, you got to be able to live with you at the end of the day. And my family, most importantly, had to know who I was.
That makes sense. And you lose someone who's like a mother, technically.
Well, I mean, I reached out and made connection, and that connection's always open, so you don't have to lose that. I think what you lose is you lose the great open connection that had existed, and you lose this beautiful, almost like love story of a kid and a mother who have been aligned for so long, who always were able to share the same side.